이에쿠니 이치카와 교수님이십니다. 소아과를 전문으로 하고 계시는 분이시고요.
Could I have a first slide, please? Okay. I understand my role is to wake you up. So let me start with a pretty girl. This is very famous now. Obokata, she created a so-called step cell scandal. And I think from the viewpoint of outside review committee member, I think this is very similar to one case. This is because it is done by a single researcher. I don't take this very serious because this is just a matter of one single person, probably, to my view, by a psychopath or character program. But there are a lot more serious misconducts are going on in Japan. This is done by a professor of Tokyo University. 43 scientific papers are withdrawn. And this is not by a single person, but a group of people, so that their group has a culture prone to misconduct. There is even more serious misconducts recently found in Japan, which was about valsartan, which is antihypertensive drugs. This is supported by Novartis, a global pharmaceutical company, supporting 5 major center clinical studies, each of which is made up of 5 or 6 universities. So that this is not a matter of single or group, but it's a matter of whole country. This is the most great, the problematic, ungraceful problem I think we do have. I was interested in this issue because we had a patent which is relating to the very first product of this antihypertensive, so-called sartan group, which is really good for organ protection, not just the hypertension. So that after we filed a patent, there were clinical studies shown that our evidence from rats were in fact valid even in humans, published in New England journals. 3 identical, almost identical results published from 3 different sites. So the person, a friend of mine who is in France, knew my interest. He told me that this misconduct trait is really a Japanese the problem. And he said, there is another one very similar, withdrawn, retracted a few years before. And I realized, in fact, that's the case. So the question arises, Japan, when compared to other countries, how they behave in terms of misconduct. Here's a very interesting story. Right at top part, you see even Korea. I'll compare all of these countries. X-axis shows the research money per GDP, so that how serious the country in terms of financing the research. And Y-axis is the rate of population engaged in research, so the how emphasis is on the research jobs. So that this, in a sense, means the reliability of products. You see Japan, Lexus, for example. You may not know, I don't see many Lexus in this country, but Japan, Korea, of course, is now top in quality in terms of industrial product. So In this diagram, someone in government official, Japanese government official, did some literature search, and in this publication, he showed the degree of misconduct in each country. Here is relatively sort of underdeveloped countries. You may anticipate this rate of misconduct, and the Europeans tend to be smaller. But USA is a little bigger. Someone argue it is because of a lot of foreign scholars working in the laboratory. Korea is like this, and Japan is like this. Well, Japan is smaller than Korea. Don't blame me, this is the product of Japanese government officials. There is another data showing, which is from different person, from other country, I forgot. I'm sorry, I cannot quote who that was. The rate of retraction rate, Japan is 0.72, not different from China, far higher than UK, and that's what it is now. So Japan and Korea probably have the same problem in terms of the reliability of the research product. Now, someone has already shown that the incidence of misconduct reported suddenly picked up at the turn of the century. And Japan and other countries, particularly the US, has a very similar problem in terms of the misconduct rate. Why? The question is, Japan is under criticism. In fact, this is one of the articles published and saying basically JST, a major funding agency, is ignorant of the incidence of the misconduct. Now, in US, they've created a e-learning system in year 2000, and basically done by 10 institutions. The reason is that they realized there weren't many talented faculties, so that they created modules together and shared the modules together. And City Japan was founded in the year 2006, and later on, year 2012, the Japanese government funded with a major fund this program. It's called International Collaborative Education Initiative. As you can see, this term, Institutionally Collaborative Education Initiative, is very similar to CITI, the Collaborative Institutional Training. The whole point is that one single institution do not have enough power to create all the modules. And so we thought that we should collaborate each other. And because of these collaboration and international items, it is interesting that when we see the picture like this, this is the international space program conducted in US, Canada, Russia, and the European Consortium, Japan. They take the CITA program, so that when I see it, it seems to me almost like I did CITA Japan, CITA me too, and of course, and you didn't do, did you? And 4-letter word. So all of these guys take the CITA programs. Of course, the global text is very important because someone living in orbit, in isolated environment, two of them not having the same education of ethics, they have a problem. It is not just a collaborative research. There are so many international scenes which include publication and training abroad and employment now. So CITI is training program is a must in NASA, and the NASA ordered regulate this education and said that collaborating JAXA, which is the counterpart of NASA in Japan, are required to take the course of CITA Japan assigned by JAXA. Our administrative structure is like this, and because we need the need for a collaboration with American folks and other folks, including Canada and South America, we visit them and communicate with them. And our site is like this one. And there are good aspects of this program. We had a global standard modules, and also in concert with Japanese regulation culture, because we have adopted module to Japanese regulations, and we also incorporate public opinions. The governance of the generating modules generating structure is like this. It's a multiple step, but which include adoption to a Japanese regulations and guidelines and history. And then we finalize the modules. But at the same time, as I said, we take public opinions to make sure that the public accept that this is the Japanese, this is a reflection of Japanese culture. But at the same time, we will let the CITI office review us and make sure that global standard is also fulfilled. And there is also another important aspect, which is that this is assigned to not just a startup level of researcher, like graduate students, but also the established investigators also. NIH, according to NIH policy, currently they mandate more than 8 hours per every 4 years, but it is assigned only to trainees. And this actually, NIH attempted to make it obligated to all the researchers, but then year 2001, a year later, they declined, probably because of the lot of resistance from established investigators. So that they suffered some aspect, that is, they find the need of training the trainer, because after this e-learning type of basic education, they need a actual face-to-face education by the trainers in the laboratory, and trainers who are established investigators haven't had the opportunity to educate themselves. And actually, this is the NIH announcement, first announcement showing that the requirement for RCR education, and saying responsible conduct research by research training program, so that the target is research trainees. But as you can see, once the responsibility assigned to all staff, including established investigators, they withdraw later on. So that in Japan, we take a different pathway. That is, JST, one of the major funding agency, implement a policy that all the JST grant recipients must take RCR course offered by CITA Japan. And starting academic year 2014, another funding agency, the other funding agency, I must say, now make it obligated to take RCR course in which perhaps either to take hours or the other course we are creating together with the government. So we will have all the researchers, regardless of the level of advancement of careers. We need to also create an English version because there are more than 100,000 foreign scholars coming from Japan, coming to Japan, who need to learn Japanese culture and also Japanese regulations. So in addition to the modules we already created, we now have a module which is translated in English. In terms of cons, there are 4 dimensions of cons. Well, not many people want to talk about it, but there is a content aspect, software aspect, politics aspect, and also financial aspect. Now, in terms of content, in terms of law, history, culture, and also education, there aren't many experts. Yes, there are experts, but there are not many teachers who can really write and reviews. A lot of people claim that I am the expert in law or history, whatever, but they are not really good at writing. And also, the other thing is, in addition to our hurdle in generating the modules, there aren't many people in the learning side, so that many institutions having a problem in terms of which modules are best for their own students and researchers. In terms of software, there aren't many IT persons in many universities, so that they are not able to handle the data of our actual track record of learners. And the other thing is, there is, I'm sure that you do, nationalism and minimalism. Nationalism is that typically no control by US, please, not that NPO, but maybe government, ORI, that type of mentality. And in fact, you know, nationalism, I'm sure that a lot of sort of aggravation going on between some Japanese and some Koreans. And those are really based on nationalism. Nationalism really is present in here too. Many Japanese wants to have their own nationalism. This is crazy to my mind because all those RCR issues, for example, authorship and so forth, are now had to be based on a global standard. Minimalism is that it's differently called protectionism, and saying wants to protect the researchers' time, so that they are more interested in protecting researchers rather than general public. So that the quickly implementable model program, read the concise book approach is better. That's the way they tend to say. And in terms of finance, we got a grant from Japanese government, but Japanese government has a policy to reduce 12% annual cut, so that by the end of 5 years, we have such a small budget. And also that they will not, they have a very strong control over our budget also. So the major point I would like to make among all those cons is a paucity of the experts in Japan for both generating modules and utilizing modules. In terms of generating modules and utilizing modules, we do need researchers, not necessarily, not just a ethicists or lawyers or of that kind of arena, because otherwise, whatever we create are not necessarily used by researchers, and the researchers always want to take a shortcut. So the evidence I will give you how disinterested all those universities. We did have a survey, and the survey, and a few comments here is that they haven't had they haven't taken our program because saying like this, has not evaluated thoroughly yet. Still at the stage of plan to review it, hasn't have enough time to evaluate it, unfamiliar to the administrative body, too busy to think about. All of these means they don't have enough personnel to deal with this education. Maybe you might have the same problem. We have the, so that because they didn't have a personnel who are knowledgeable about this, so we have to create what the purpose of each modules. We did a lot of, we spent a lot of time in advertising in various places, exposure to mass media, and so forth. And we had a survey for how the people take this, our program. And it said it was not as painful as I thought. And e-learning is the best mode of learning versus versus lectures, books, and videos. E-learning, as you can see in the pink, is dominating the others. And 68% wants to recommend it to other people strongly or modestly. And the last one is half of the people feel it should become mandatory, and another cannot tell. And those against it is less than 10%. And here I will tell you one very good example for the Japanese situation in terms of how the social behavior science is taken. This result can be, you can conclude in two ways. One is the product is so good, so tasteful, so that everyone should take. The other interpretation is those, the responders are all who have taken the course, so that because they took a pain, they want others to take pain. Okay? So, but you can, if you want to advertise this program, I will just conclude the former conclusions. So, because here is the problem. This survey was not reviewed by IRB. Okay? This is a typical SBR proposal, which needs to be reviewed by IRB. I insisted that this should be reviewed before we start the survey. But majority, actually, all the others are against it. That's the reason here I could show you data. So I reminded you how lightly the social behavior research is taken in Japan now. We have many modules under revisions, and we have our own product, this is about pluripotent cell, stem cell research, because the rules and the culture is so different. And also, here we have the data, how many learners we picked up. This is the very old data of year 2000, this year, January 1st. We have now 100,000, so that more than 5 times more than the number I'm showing you now. So that nearly 100,000 learners are taking our program. Initially, goal was very small. We are very humble, but it turned out to be very high. The reason why this number at the time of January 1st is low as compared to the 100,000 now is because scandal, the Obokata scandal. So in a sense, we anticipated a phone call from many other institutions when the scandal picked up was publicized. So what I think, you can draw your own conclusions, that if your country are still short of getting the target in terms of learning of RCR or HSR or animal study ethics, you need one more big scandal. And that is my conclusion. Thank you very much.